In lesson 2-2, we will be comparing and ordering integers. So we'll be using symbols like less than, greater than, equal to, those sorts of things, and we'll continue to use our number line. So where it says here -4 is less than -2, we would write it as -4 is less than -2. And then so obviously we can plot -4 on the number line. We can plot -2 on the number line. The one that is closer to 0 obviously is the greater number. So we could write it like this. You always open your symbol toward the number that is furthest to the right on the number line. So we got to remember which one is closer to 0 or which one is furthest to the right. Obviously any positive number is greater than a negative. So -2 is greater than -4. You could also write those same two numbers. If -2 is first, then we would say -2 is greater than. So a symbol that looks like this, it kind of looks like an L. We say less than. All right, and then the symbol that opens the other way, we say greater than. It always opens to the number that is greater in value. Okay, so it says replace the dot with a less than or greater than symbol to make -9 and -5 a true sentence. So I'm going to copy -9 and I can put a blank here and I'll put -5. All right. Now, for these types of problems in your homework, you'll want to copy the -9 and the -5 down and you put your symbol in here. You either put less than or greater than. You don't always have to use a number line. However, it might be a good habit to maybe make one number line on the top of your paper and use it for all of your problems. So like if this is 0, we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could kind of do that at the top of your paper for this homework assignment, and you could use it for all of your problems rather than making a number line for every problem. Okay, we have -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. Obviously, we'd have to keep going for this problem. We'd say -6, -7, -8, and -9. All right, so if you made one number line from like -10 to +10 on the top of your sheet, you'd probably be set for all your problems. So when we look at this, okay, -5 is right here, and -9 is right here. So -5 is further to the right and closer to 0. So -5 is bigger. So we want to open it toward -5. So we read it as -9 is less than -5. So that's how we read it. This would be our answer. All right, this is just one way to work it out and to think about it. Okay, if you don't need the number line, that's great. But it might be helpful for you to draw one number line on your paper and use it as a reference for all your problems. All right, so again, -8 and -7. Okay, if I think about that number line, -8 is going to be here, -7 is going to be here, and 0 is going to be somewhere down here. Again, if you make one number line, you could kind of just look at it and put your fingers on those numbers and say, okay, which one's closer to 0? Well, -7 is closer to 0, so I can say -8 is less than -7. Don't ever switch your numbers around. Keep them in the same order. Now, these problems here are extra examples. I would like you to add them to your notes. You don't have them, but you need to add them into your notes. Now we have -2 and -5. So now we can kind of add some more here. We have -1. There's -2, -3, -4. Now we're getting kind of tight. You want to make sure you have enough room. Okay, we'll say -5 is there, and then we'll put a -6 in there. All right, so I have -2, which is here. We have -5, which is here. So -2 is closer to 0. So I'm going to say -2 is greater than -5. Okay. Again, I kept the numbers in the same order. And -2 is closer to 0, so I open it towards -2. Now this one, notice we have an absolute value symbol. So we have to solve that part first. So I'm going to copy -14 down. And what is the absolute value of -20? The absolute value of -20 is 20. Now notice this is a positive number, this is a negative number, so I know that that number is bigger, so I'm going to open it that way. And I would say negative 14 is less than 20. All right, one problem left. Right away, I notice that this is a positive number, this is a negative number. So it doesn't matter how big the number looks, all right, it's still negative 25 is less than 3. Any negative number is less than a positive number. The lowest temperatures in Europe, Greenland, Oceania, and Antarctica are listed in the table. Order the temperatures from coldest to warmest. So we want to put the coldest temperature first. Okay, well, looking here, the coldest temperature would be negative 129. I'll put a comma. The next coldest, I'll put a check mark here. The next coldest would be the negative 87. Next would be the negative 67. And then a positive 14. Okay, now it said coldest to warmest. So 14 degrees isn't very warm, but it is the warmest in this group. Okay, now it's very important to read these directions, because if it said warmest to coldest and you wrote it like this would be backwards. It would be wrong. All right, so make sure you read your directions. Do they want it smallest to largest, coldest to warmest, largest to smallest, or warmest to coldest? How is it said in the directions? Okay, the absolute value of negative 29, blank. The absolute value of 92, fill in the blank with less than, greater than, or equal. All right, so the absolute value of negative 29 is positive 29. The absolute value of 92 is 92. So I'm going to open it towards my larger number. 29 is less than 92. When you have problems with the absolute value symbols in them, you have to evaluate the absolute value symbol first. Okay, think of it like your PEM does. And P stands for all grouping symbols. This is a grouping symbol, so you have to do that part first before you think about the answer. All right, and that's your last example for lesson 2-2. Be sure to check the Moodle page to find out what your homework is.